Did I buy this corset specifically for my coverage of Bridgerton Season 3? Yes. Can I breathe? More than I thought, in fact. Is it a sleigh? I'll leave it up to you. I'll leave it up to you to decide. It's got these cute little bows. I mean, look at the material. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Oh, it's time to talk about Bridgerton Season 3. I want to start by saying that this is in no way my full review of the season, but enough people were commenting, asking what I thought, that I was like, okay, maybe I need to do a general thoughts, overviews, reactions type video before I get into analyzing and actually like critically reviewing it more so. So a review will be coming. Don't you worry about that. And also I think I might break down each episode because there's so much in like every scene pretty much. So many thoughts that I had, so many things to talk about. So I might be breaking down each of those episodes. I was always going to do a Colin character analysis, but now I'm more determined pretty much than ever. Not to mention, you know, the teasers and trailers for part 2 and speculation about what's in part 2. Don't get me started. But that is not for today. Today is just general thoughts and overviews, first reactions. I'm probably going to include some of my live reactions here. The reason I didn't set up a camera like this and film is because I needed to watch it in my natural habitat. I needed to be laying down, no makeup, no bra, viewing it exactly the way that I wanted to. It's something that's so special to me. It's one of my favorite shows. I wait years for it. You know what I mean? Like, I could not corrupt that experience for myself, and it does become a hindrance when you're worried about, like, work part of it, or like if I was worried about the battery or the memory card or the light and, you know, how I looked and the microphone, like all this type of stuff, I really didn't want to interfere at all with my first viewing experience. I needed to binge it all immediately. I needed to just watch it exactly as I was. But I did just set up my computer in the corner, so the audio's not good. It's not like good quality. I thought people would probably have something rather than nothing. I don't know. And also I didn't talk much because I wasn't doing a commentary. Like I was not, you know what I mean? Like I was just watching it. I was just taking it in. I also am probably going to do a rewatch on my Patreon. And maybe if people want it, like maybe we could do a rewatch on here where I film it like my other reactions, my first time reactions, like In With an E or Summer I Turned Pretty. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that and what type of videos you want to see. But today, just first thoughts. Let's get into it. So one of the first things about the season that stands out to me is that the subplots are so much better, in my opinion. I am so pleasantly surprised with what they have done with the subplots this season. Subplots in season 2, I'm so sorry, girl. They just simply were not as well written as the subplots in season 1. They weren't as intriguing, they weren't as engaging, they took up way too much time, they dragged on. It was just a mess. This season, however, the subplots kind of ate. They kind of ate. Okay, and so I'll break down each of those first. So the Featherington subplot comes to mind first because they were actually utilized properly. The Featheringtons need to serve as garnish for the Bridgerton world. The lavishness and ridiculousness of the world, the camp qualities, you could say, are best served by the Featheringtons being used as comedic relief, sparingly. And I think in season 1, especially with the addition of Marina, because that was just an interesting storyline in and of itself, they were used the correct amount where like when they were on screen, it was funny. It added a little something to a scene. It was a little bit of spice. It was a little bit of seasoning. You know what I mean? Like it was like, oh, okay, they're funny. They're ridiculous. We can haha laugh at them. Look at their crazy clothes. Look at the crazy things they're doing and saying. And that was the purpose that they served. Whereas they took up way too much time in season 2. This one did not take up too much time. It was kind of like perfect timing. It was short and sweet, to the point. Every single scene was really entertaining. This baby race is like such a funny concept, especially pitting them two against each other, just generally speaking, and then with their lack of knowledge. Everyone killed it, by the way. Like, Harriet Keynes, Bessie Carter, and Polly Walker all killed that. That was so funny. I was laughing like every time they were on screen. And I wasn't sick of them either. Like, they were used sparingly enough that I was like, okay, baby race plot, like, let's go, let's fucking go. It was just so funny. It was so entertaining. Could they do more with their characters and expand on them and delve a little deeper into them? Perhaps. Should they? Or do I want them to? Not really. I don't need it. I don't need it. Although, I would like to see a little bit more from Portia, which I think we saw hints of, which I'll get to. But yeah, it was great. It was great. I loved it. I really did. I was surprised by how much I loved it. Especially given the season 2 subplot. Oh, Francesca, what a breath of fresh air Francesca is. I'm really glad that they went down the route that they did with her. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've read the book, so I can't remember if this is necessarily book accurate, but I think regardless, it's a smart choice for them to make this her journey and characterization in the show because it really sets her apart from her siblings. You run the risk of really blending all of them together and it getting really repetitive because it's like, okay, they're all loud, they're all funny, they're all gorgeous and amazing, like all this type of stuff. Like they do have somewhat similar personalities. Another thing that I really liked, and seems like an attention to detail, is that she could keep up with her siblings and she felt comfortable with them and she could jest and jape back and forth. She could give as good as she got, but she wasn't interested in the notice that all of them kind of are. Seeing society through her eyes, where she's not particularly against it, but she's also not particularly for it, was really interesting. And I liked her practicality. I liked that she wanted to get married, like, for practical reasons, but she didn't really, like, she wasn't holding out on a love match, and she realized that that was rare. She's very realistic. She feels very self-assured, very well-realized, and I just loved it. I thought it was so interesting to see a different personality within the Bridgerton family, because all of them are relatively outgoing. And, the guys coming up to court her and her love of music and all this type of stuff, like, it just was so interesting. Also, Hannah Dodd is so stunning. I don't think there was a moment she was on my screen where I wasn't like, how do you look like that? How and why, and how dare you? If you weren't such a little pretty princess, I might be mad. I also think it allows for showcasing a different type of personality within a love story, and therefore a different type of love story. So, like, seeing John and Francesca, I'm obsessed with them, okay? Like, people who are very internalized, who are okay with silence, who bond that way, who have that love language and that connection through silence itself, is so interesting to see a different type of relationship and different types of people in relationships portrayed. Also, it was a good tie-in to Penn to show that she was different from the rest of her siblings. I loved that conversation between them. I thought that was a really good way to tie them together and make it relevant for the main couple as well. And Fran and John are everything. I'm obsessed with them. I love them so much. I thought their scenes were the sweetest and cutest ever, and it was hilarious how her family was like, what is going on? Like, they could not understand. And I just love that. And I love that for her. She gets someone who finally understands her. We love to see it. So for the Mondriches, out of the, what I would say are 4 main subplots and then some peripheral subplots underneath those, they are probably like my least favorite, but all that being said, I don't dislike them. I like them a lot as characters. I think they're both beautiful, amazing, talented, gorgeous, like, interesting. It's an interesting perspective to see, people who aren't born into aristocracy navigating that as well. I like both those actors. Like, I really love their relationship. I think they're a good addition to the show. I do, however, just wonder what the intent is. Like, are they going to try and weave it into the main storyline more so? Are they trying to expand upon them separately, just in and of itself, like to have more of an independent outlook? I just wonder a little bit about the reasoning behind delving into their storyline as much as they have. But regardless, I still like to see them. And it didn't take up too much time, so it's really inconsequential either way, because it really wasn't taking up that much time. So for Benedict and Tilly, I guess I'm in the vast minority because everyone hates what's going on with Benedict this season. I live. Would I like to see more of him? Always. What an inane question. Would I like to see more of Benedict Bridgerton? Of course. Like I would like to breathe air. You know what I mean? Like, of course I would like to see more of him. Of course he's being underutilized at this point in time. But I find this story actually very different than the 2 stories that we had prior in the other seasons for him. Because firstly, the first 2 seasons, even his romantic subplots were intertwined with his art. So the reason he met Genevieve was through meeting that guy through art. The reason that he met, I think the girl's name was Tessa, was at art school. So, like, those are intertwined. This is independent of art completely because he's taken off of that. I want them to return back to Benedict's art, but I think it's interesting now that we have something independent of his art as well, and a relationship at that. I found the scenes where he was running from the marriage mart funny. You know what I mean? Luke Thompson killed that. The comedic chops. We love to see it. He's hilarious. I also found it interesting that he was the one who, like, was explaining to Will kind of the benefits of being a married couple in society, especially given the amount of times that they have referenced or alluded or foreshadowed Benedict's interaction with working class people. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but, period. But to me, this is the first time that I actually see the potential for him to fall in love. The thing about all these storylines, though, is that I can't speak too soon, right? We have a whole other half left, so opinions that I might have now or things that I might be worried about might be taken care of in the second half, so it's kind of hard to even discuss part 1 without having seen part 2 as well and the full narrative arc. But to me, it seems like a setup for him, like, to actually have real feelings. There was a lot more interaction and intellect and discussion and kind of friction between the 2 of them than he ever had with Genevieve or Tessa. Those relationships were essentially purely physical, sexual. Whereas here, he's intrigued by her. He's intimidated by her. They've talked about things outside of, just their physical connection or, just partying together. There's more of a kinship there, more of a connection. And I think it could be expanded upon. I kind of wish they would. But where I see it heading, if they do go this direction, where like he falls in love with her and then it's a rejection at the end, very Anthony of him. Very Anthony season 1 of him. You know what I mean? And I think before each of the new leads' seasons, establishing some romantic interest for them prior to their season is important. They did it with Colin and Marina. They did it with Anthony and Sienna. I guess you could say they did it with Eloise and Theo. Just, I mean, basically to show that she is interested in a relationship more so than anything else. And now I feel like this is that for Benedict. He does want this. He does want a relationship. He is interested in a serious relationship, even though he's avoiding courting and, you know, scoffing at the social season and the debutantes and the mamas. If the storyline goes where I think it's going, he's set up for heartbreak, and I would like to see it. Not because I want to see his heart broken, but so that he's ready for a certain someone. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? We need to tee that up. We need to get that in place. And I think that could be doing this. And I, for one, would like to see Benedict Bridgerton in love. Or, like, at least a little bit more than lust. Have a little bit more of a connection. Because I eat that shit up. So I live for them. I like them. I like that she's a widow. She is experienced. She knows what she's doing. She, you know, she doesn't give a fuck. Like, she really is kind of like, okay, whatever's going on. I like their first meeting. You know, she's a STEM queen. We love to see it. Like, what is there not to like about it? Just that there's not enough of it. To me personally, in my personal opinion, don't come for me, but I like it. But again, I'm reserving total judgment until the end of the season. I will have more to say once those narrative arcs are completed. As for the queen, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing she's been doing. In a perfect world, do I wish that she could do more? That they could expand on her character or give her a little bit more depth in the framework of Bridgerton? Sure. But at the same time, the queen is very much like almost like a caricature. She fulfills a narrative purpose and function. She drives the plot forward, especially the Lady Whistledown part of the plot, right? So like they need a rival. They need, or at least they want to have this tension ramping up between the two of them and it always being a hunt and things like that. So that keeps that momentum up for that storyline, and that's pretty much the purpose that she served. I would like to see a little bit more, but again, I think like the spinoff of Queen Charlotte already kind of gave her more to do, gave her a little bit more depth, so that like within the Bridgerton show itself, she just drives the plot forward. She serves a function more than anything else, plus Golda's amazing, and you know, the hair. She's good as a figurehead, right? But she doesn't really do much, so I don't really have much to say about her storyline because it's the same one we've gotten over and over again. But there's potential for that to improve in part 2, which I will get to in another video. Marcus and Violet, they're so messy for that. They're so messy for that. They said, okay, let's get Lady Danbury to fuck Violet's dad, and then let's bring Lady Danbury's brother in so Violet can fuck him. Like, I'm like, messy of y'all. Unnecessary. But I don't mind it. I think he's very charismatic. He's very charming. I am interested in the beef between them. I'm like, what is going on? They really do keep hinting to such interesting family dynamics with Lady Danbury in particular, but they never expand upon it. She, again, is more of like a figurehead within the society. She's more a part of like the Bridgerton family. She's more of an alliance there than she is with any of her family. Like, we don't really see her. So I think it's interesting, I guess. I would like to see it. He's very attractive. You know what I mean? Period, Violet. I'm all for you getting gardened. I doubt it'll happen though, and I do just have a feeling that this plot, for some reason, I don't know, I just have a feeling they're gonna like drop it or not finish it, or it's gonna be disappointing in the end. Now for Eloise. So Eloise has basically 2 subplots. She has one with Cressida that is tangentially involved with Penelope, and then she has one with Colin and Penelope. And I love them. I have to say, for me, this is the best Eloise has been. She's been entertaining and lovely and lively before, sure. But this is the most depth I've ever felt from her. The most character. It's very character-driven. It's very emotional. It's something new for Claudia to do, which I'm sure she was thrilled about, exploring like another thing other than Eloise just being the funny, quirky one. It's so interesting on so many levels. I think the choice to have Cressida involved, I still don't know where that story's going, so I can't really speak on my opinion of the choice yet until it's done. But there's a very interesting dynamic between the two of them. There are things that they're actually compatible on, which really surprised me. There is an actual connection there, which again, really surprised me. There's some moments in there where I'm like, they do connect on that, or, oh, they could, I see how they could be compatible there, which I didn't expect. That's not really the obvious route to go in. So I commend them for doing the more kind of complicated thing that might be more nuanced and complex. I also think that Cressida is putting a mirror, no pun intended, up to Eloise's own failures in the past, her own behavior, her own responsibility that she has in all these instances of strife with her family or with Penelope. That's very interesting. Cressida, again, I can't really speak until the end of the season, but I could do without her family and more so with some of her talking. Like that conversation between them where she was saying that she wanted to be her friend and she tried to befriend her. That's true. I mean, we saw it. Of course, she was insulting Penelope in the process. So it's like, okay, did we have to do that? Did we have to do all that? No. But you can see a kind of like more sad underbelly of that, where she wants to get along with people and it's just not working. And again, that's her fault for the most part. But it was just interesting to see her own self-reflection and introspection on her experience in the time. Now for the Eloise and Penelope part of it, I think this is like the best friend that Eloise has ever been when they're not even friends right now. Now they're both very young, so I don't fault them for either of this, but especially in the first few seasons, there's a lot of instances where neither of them are really that great of friends to each other. There's a lot of instances of Eloise being pretty selfish, not really listening to Penelope, not really paying attention to Penelope, not really taking into account Penelope's feelings or thoughts in certain things, which again is fine. They're young, they're navigating it, but it can leave somewhat of a sour taste in your mouth and leave you going, why are they such good friends? Why do they love each other so much? Do they love each other so much? You know, because if all you see is just like repeated kind of like iffy behavior as friends, then that leaves you wondering, what is it that really makes them friends then? But this season, more than any other, I see her love for Penelope. I see her protectiveness of Penelope. You know, she's not spilling that secret. She's longing for her and missing her from afar. And, you know, they keep having glances at each other. Like, it's just, you see the friendship. I feel like the core of that friendship is very evident in this season, and it's very touching to me. I find it very touching. I really do. And again, like, I know people are all over Penelope. This is the most that I have felt emotionally attached to them in all 3 seasons. Interestingly enough, through strife. But again, I think it gives Eloise an opportunity to reflect on certain things and mature a little bit and put her in an interesting position and predicament, which I'm excited to see how that goes. Again, talk about that later. But there's a lot of really like nuanced and complex dynamics here. And then again, oh God, I love the non-romantic love triangle, as Luke put it, between Eloise, Colin, and Penelope. Oh my God, does that eat? It's so fucking good. All my opinions are subject to change, right? The more that I watch it, the more that I have time to reflect on it, I might change these opinions, but as of right now, I'm living. Like, I'm like, absolutely, this has been so interesting. For the first time, we're seeing this specific sibling dynamic between Colin and Eloise. This is really the first time we've seen them like one-on-one as much. So we're diving into both of them and their relationships and the way that they function within their relationship and one another and how they relate to one another. We're seeing conflict within each of those 3 people between the love for this person and this person. You know, Eloise is really caught between her love for Penelope and Colin, especially as it pertains to Lady Whistledown. Colin is caught between his love for Penelope and his love for Eloise. And Penelope, similarly, is caught between her love for Colin and Eloise. There's protectiveness on everybody's parts, which is really complicated. Neither Eloise nor Penelope want to tell Colin about their falling out. Eloise is still like looking out for Penelope, still wants her to have a friend, is keeping her secret, is mad at Cressida when she treats her badly, feels bad for her with Whistledown. So you see that care. I think it's more evident and more obvious than ever before. But at the exact same time, she cares for Colin. So she is going to be between a rock and a hard place in this, being like, I want to protect my brother. I don't want him to get dragged into this. I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want to hurt you, but this is my brother. They're really having a lot of conflict and struggle there, which I find very interesting. And I just love seeing Colin and Eloise interact. I think their relationship is very sweet. The way that they've set it up. All of them really come off looking like really like genuinely kind, caring people. They all love each other. You know what I mean? They're just in a very strange situation. They could have very easily gone with a much easier type of thing where she's really mad about Colin and Penelope, which she might be still. But I just think this is a lot more complex and interesting than a lot of the routes they could have gone down with this breakup between their friendship and then the kindling of the relationship between Colin and Penelope. I just think it's interesting. I just think it's just delicious. I'm like, all those scenes I fucking eat up. I eat it up. I like seeing Eloise be a protective sister, Colin being a protective brother. We see more of his relationships with his brothers than his sisters, so I just love this crossover this season. I think it's so good. Now we can get into Colin and Penelope's characterizations and then the relationship. And this is where, you know, the bulk of the juice is. I know a lot of people are saying there's not enough of Colin and Penelope in their season. I disagree. Would I like there to be more? Sure. Do I think there's enough? Yes. The whole fandom thing, it's interesting to see it go 180 because, you know, this is the same frustration that people had with season 2. Kate and Anthony weren't in it enough, or their storyline was so much comprised of the roadblock of Edwina. And there was a lot of time spent on other subplots and peripheral characters and the Featherington plot, for example. The argument then was like, oh, well, it's an ensemble show. So I just say the exact same thing here. I'm like, they're really proving their point that they are trying to go for an ensemble format here. And I'm glad that they are, because despite there being obvious favoritism toward Paulin as a couple, the fact that they're still expanding the world and focusing on these other characters and storylines lets me know that they were serious about it being an ensemble show, and we can see the proof of that now with more seasons as time goes on. And I think it's probably smart, because you can't rely on any one character or any one couple, because you don't know what's going to happen down the line. You need to start getting people invested in the peripheral characters so that they want to come back to the world of Bridgerton regardless of if it's their couple or not. You need to get them interested in Francesca and Eloise and Benedict so that they're invested enough that they will go and watch their season, even if, say, Kate and Antony aren't in it, or Penelope and Colin aren't in it, and those are their favorites. You need to have them invested, so you need to devote enough time to that. And plus, again, I think one of the things that's really strong about this show is the relationship between the Bridgertons. The banter, those scenes where they're all together are always so good, and so funny, and so sweet, and feels like the heart of the show to me personally. I also think, again, we have a whole other half. Who knows how much is going to be in there? Like, it's just hard to even say at this point. It's a little hard to review some of these things because I'm like, well, I won't know until I see the full arc. So take it for what you will. So for Colin's characterization, you know, they're bringing him back. Has a swagger from being abroad, and, you know, he's really trying to play into society. He's trying to fit a role that he's always been expected to fit, and he never really did, and now he's kind of feeling like he's finally fitting in, and you see that. You see the confidence that he gains from that, you see the attention that he gains from that from women and men alike. It's interesting because it does feel a bit jarring, but I think a lot of people aren't recognizing the fact that this is intentional. So him being cringy, him being gross, like flirting with all these people and doing all these things, is intentional. So a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's out of character for him, and sure, but I think that's also the point. You know what I mean? They're trying to show that he's trying to be someone that he isn't. So while I personally hate those scenes, I hate them with a burning passion. I cannot stand those scenes. I think they are so bad, but like they're meant to be bad. You know what I mean? So like, I don't have any complaints about it though, because it's serving a purpose in the storyline and it's intentional. Yes, I can't take him seriously. Yes, I'm cringing. Yes, it's gross. Yes, I hate to see him like this.
If I did, you would swoon. We cannot have that. How is it possible that your dance cards for the season are not yet full of suitors? Flowers in bloom. My stories from abroad are not suitable for such tender young ladies. Were I to tell you even the tiniest adventure, well, I would be forced to marry you.
Oh, okay. Ew.
Such an array of beautiful ladies.
Ew, what?
We'll be fighting over you. I cannot compete.
God, I don't want to look at it. So I don't have a problem at all with the route that they went down and the choice that they made to pursue this storyline and this arc for him. But I do think that for general audiences and people who either don't like Colin or aren't that invested in him or don't really pay that much attention, aren't kind of as, you know, obsessive and psychotic as, say, someone like me is, I think they could do a better job of making it clear that this is the arc. The reason why I know it so well is because mainly Luke has talked about it so much in interviews, but there's a lot of the general audience that aren't watching their interviews or that aren't really looking that deeply into Colin and his previous 2 seasons arcs and things like that. So I think they could do a better job of making it very clear and apparent that that is what's going on here. But then again, that could happen in part 2. Generally speaking, I think it makes sense with his character that he's trying to be someone that he's not. And there are a few good lines spelling that out. You know, the moments with his friends, especially the first one at the first ball where he's talking to them and then he sees Penelope and he wants to go after her. And it's very obvious that they don't actually care about like him. They definitely don't care about Penelope. They're like, why would you care about her? They're like, you're so much more fun this season. You see that he's getting validation from this new like act and from this new bravado that he's coming back telling all these stories about. But in that moment, all he cares about is Penelope, and he leaves the conversation to go do that. So again, you see that that's not really who he is, but you also see that people are liking it. Also, the little like speech that he makes in episode 4, I believe it is, where they're all talking about women, and he's like talking about, you know, how intimacy is one of the most meaningful things in the world, and why are we all acting like it's so cavalier? Like, why are we acting like this? Again, you see that internal struggle, and you see him fighting the societal expectations of the type of man that he's supposed to be. And then you also see at the brothel the second time where which we'll get to that, but where he is like not into it and he can't do it, he's distracted. They are showing that turn a little bit, but again, I think for general audiences, it could be spelled out a little bit clearer. Unfortunately, some people need that. I do think they really could have utilized his journal to do this. I really think that was a missed opportunity. They started to kind of skirt into it, but if they were gonna have him narrate first person, I mean, what a great way to utilize a staple of the genre of romance novel, where you hear both characters' inner monologue and their thoughts and their feelings constantly. You can't do that in a TV show, but through the medium of his writing, if they were gonna do a voiceover and get into his journal writing, I wish they would have just snuck in some lines in there that gives you a better indication of how he's feeling deep down inside, that all this stuff is really meaningless to him and that he isn't feeling fulfilled by it. Things like that to foreshadow. And they start to a little bit, but like they could have done more. Okay, so as for the call-in intimacy scenes, let's say, prior to Penelope, I heard this rumor a while ago. I think I have a video of when I read that leak, and I didn't believe it. I was just like, surely not. Surely not. And I'll put that video in here.
Is the sun reliable? I don't think it is. But if it is, what? Threesomes with 2 women and then performing a sex show for him? No fucking shot. But then again, I feel like there were things leading up to season 2 that I was like, no way they're doing that. And it just sounded so ridiculous to me, and then I was gagged because it was true. This can't be true. This can't be true. I'm not accepting it. That can't be true. It can't be true. It simply can't.
But I was gobsmacked. I will put my video of my reaction to the first brothel scene in here as well. Although it's so annoying because my blanket is covering my mouth. I was mouth agape the entire time. You can see my eyes are like this, but I was literally... I cannot believe that was true. Oh my god. I couldn't believe what was in front of my eyes. And I honestly still can't. It's kind of crazy. You know, there's a part of me that's like a little resistant to this turn for him because I'm like, well, he's not like Simon and Antony. Like, that's one of the benefits of having him as your main character now. Like, you should be able to show that and capitalize on that and not have it be the exact same thing. But, one, it's a staple of the genre to have the man be much more experienced than the woman. Whatever you think about that, it just is what it is. 2, I think there is an element of them trying to do away with the youthfulness of Colin as a character. They want people to be prepared for him to have those intimacy scenes with Penelope and to be the leading man and to be the sex symbol, so to speak. So that makes sense to me to do that as well. And then also, of course, it does fit along with his arc. Again, I have to see how it all plays out to get a full opinion on this. I would have liked to see like a virgin or at least a less experienced Colin. I would have liked for them to reference that he slept around a bunch while he was traveling and that he got to be a ladies' man. I don't know that we needed to see it once he was back in Mayfair prior to Penelope. We could have heard about it. They could have alluded to it. Again, that journal talking about all the that he slept with, talking about the Contessa, and all that type of stuff. Like, that would have been sufficient to me to be like, okay, he's been fucking around. Okay, I get it. Let's get him checked for an STD. Like, I don't know that it was necessary, but, whatever. I mean, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at the choice to make Colin more experienced or to have him go on this journey of trying to be more like his brothers, trying to emulate Antony or Simon and be a rake when in actuality, he's really not, and they show that later on in the season. Of course, one kiss with Penn is all it takes. He's gone forever. I don't have a problem with it. I was just shocked. I just really was shocked. And I was shocked by the threesome aspect of it. I mean, I need to speak on it. Like, I just was. We actually really have, well, I guess Benedict had one, but like, that was a whole other thing. That was a whole, like, sex party. But even as much of a rake as Antony and Simon were, we never saw anything like that. So to see Colin in between those two women was so jarring. I was like, and I thought it was Benedict at first. I fully was like, oh, Benedict. And then my eyes adjusted and I was like, wait. And my brain caught up and I was like, is this Colin? is this Colin that I'm looking at in between these two women? I do wonder about the choice specifically to have it be a threesome, because both of those scenes, it's him in a threesome. And I wonder if there's some significance behind that, or honestly, if they wanted to up the shock value or get their sex quota in there, get their nudity quota in there. I don't really know what is the motivating force behind it. I saw some people talk about, like, it could be that, like, it feels more impersonal with two people, and that's what he's really going for, because he doesn't want that connection. And I know Luke has talked about some of the physicality during that scene, like that he was kissing them, but it was very primal and animalistic. It wasn't sweet or tender or caring, as juxtaposed to then his very gentle kiss with Penelope. So I don't know how much of that is really thought out, or if it's just kind of like, they're like, okay, fuck it, let's put Colin in a threesome. Let's get him, okay, let's have him watch two women perform. They're crazy for that. They're crazy for that. Was that necessary? It was not necessary. I'm sorry, that was not necessary. This is our queer representation here, I guess. Also, that scene cracked me up. I'll put in my reaction to it, but he said fine. I truly cannot believe this is real.
I'm afraid my enthusiasm is elsewhere this evening.
So you would prefer to watch?
Fine.
They truly, they're so crazy for this. But also fine is crazy. Oh my fucking god! What is happening? Okay, sure. My man said fine. When has a man ever... Anyway, he's so damn bad. I love it. It's how it should be. It's how God intended. So yeah, that was a lot. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I was like, okay. And I mean, I can't lie. There was a moment in the first one where I went, ooh. I was feeling a certain type of way. Let's put it that way. I was feeling a certain type of way. And I was shocked that I felt that way. And I was shocked to see what I was seeing. And I'll put my reaction in here and you can put the pieces together for yourself. But I was like, whoa, okay. Okay, actually maybe this wasn't a bad scene. Like I was like, okay, maybe I see the point now. So for Pen, I'm interested to see where the rest of her arc goes. I don't really identify it with what has been presented in the promotional campaign of like her gaining all this confidence, because I don't really see that she's done that. I know with Debling, you know, she can speak her mind, she can be herself, and maybe then she gets a little confidence seeing that someone actually likes her for her and is interested in her and pays attention to her. But I haven't quite seen the like arc that they're talking about, I don't think. I just wonder if that's going to happen in the second part, and if it is, then I have ideas about what that might look like. I think it makes sense that like her glow up, you know, is only external and not internal, so then, you know, some guys are interested immediately. They're like, oh, actually, she looks good, period. But then she can't talk to them. And I love that they put that detail from the book. There is basically a line from the book that she then says as dialogue, where it's talking about how she knows that she's clever and she knows that she is, you know, worthy, but she just can't seem to say the right thing. I thought that was very interesting. It was painful to watch. I mean, Nicola did a great job. Like, the comedic chops, period. But it was painful to watch, as it should be. As it's supposed to be. But it was painful to watch. It was painful to watch her say her gown. Ooh, I wanted to die. I wanted to die of secondhand embarrassment.
What a striking gown you have on.
You as well, my lord. Not the gown part, obviously the first part. It is a pleasure to see you all in your proper evening dress, which is not at all gown-like. I'm not quite sure of her reasoning. Do you all like to read?
That is so crazy. Now I'll go into Colin and Penelope's relationship and my thoughts on all those scenes and the way that they went about it. I do think that the pacing was a little fast. It felt a little fast to me, especially after my first watch. After my second watch, not so much, but I do think that it's a lot subtler and goes by a lot quicker than people were expecting or anticipating or hoping. And so that makes it feel very fast. It does make it feel like a fast turnaround, which I do think is a problem, especially for general audiences. That being said, as the crazy psychotic bitch I am, you know, I did that whole relationship analysis for Paulin, and I'm like, well, they have been building this up for 2 seasons. And whether or not people realize it or care to realize it, these things have been building up for Colin to get into a place in which he can kind of thrust forward. Well, I mean, especially toward the end of season 2, you know, he starts to appreciate her. He starts to really acknowledge the connection that they have and how special she is and how she makes him feel. So the thing is that, like, Colin already loves her as a person. And all that's left is the romantic, sexual, physical attraction. So once we have that, it's off to the races. It does feel quick, but it really isn't, because we have had 2 seasons of building up this relationship between the two of them. He loves her as a person. He likes being around her. He laughs with her. He can be himself with her. He feels truly appreciated by her more than anyone else in his entire life. There's all these elements to, like, her as a human being and them as people getting along. The only thing that's missing from his love for her is the physical, sexual, and romantic connection. And so once he has that kiss and has that realization, we're off, baby. We're off, baby. Like, it's a done deal pretty much at that point. It's like, oh, my best friend in the whole world and, like, my favorite person ever, and someone that I miss when she's not here, and the person that I feel like most like myself and I can be with and talk to, and the person that, you know, I can't live without, and, like, my bestie boo. Ugh. And we also, like, have good chemistry, and she's actually also really hot and sexy. Like, whoa, like, the puzzle pieces are falling into place. You know what I mean? Like, what else is there to say or do? I think he leads to a very obvious, inevitable conclusion that, like, she's my favorite person in the whole world, and she's hot and sexy. Wow. Maybe I should marry her. You know what I mean? I don't think it's rocket science. Colin isn't, even though a lot of people like to say he is, Colin isn't stupid. So, like, once he realizes, he gets into it. He's quick to jump on it, because he's like, oh, yeah, of course, this makes sense. Now, for the apology scene, I do wish there was a little bit more of an apology. I wish there was a little bit more of an apology or grovel, but not, again, I'm not, like, wanting to see him, like, suffer or anything like that, because I also don't think he really deserves that, and it's not really fair. I wonder if some of this is going to come back in the reveal for Lady Whistledown, if then, you know, he's going to get really mad at her, and then she's going to be like, well, you said this about me, and I've loved you all these years, and you never loved me back, and all this stuff. I wonder if those skeletons are kind of gonna get brought out of the closet and aired out again. I would love it if they did. I really would love it if they did. I don't know that they're going to, but that would be a really interesting thing to see, and I would like for them to address it a little bit more directly and kind of work through it, especially, like, for their sake, in my mind, of their relationship. I'm like, y'all need to, like, work through these issues, okay? Y'all need to talk about the resentments that you build up against each other. Like, we need to address the elephant in the room. And I wish they had done a little bit more of that. I wish there was a little bit more time spent on him, like, really struggling with the fact that she was not answering his letters, or, you know, if we would have seen a little bit more of that. But again, this is hard to judge, because I can't say for certain that in the last 4 episodes, he has a whole big speech and monologue about how much he missed her and how he realized that, you know, all along, actually, she was his favorite person, and, you know, his life was nothing without her when she wasn't writing back and did all this stuff. Like, I don't know if that's gonna happen. So I, again, have to reserve judgment. But it did feel a little quick for my liking. But regardless, Mr. Apology, Mr. Love Confession over here, give me a break. Give me a break. The comedy is really good. The banter between them is really good, especially that scene under the tree. That shit was so fucking funny. They killed that shit. The delivery, the timing, the back and forth, the stuttering, like, we just love to see it. It's very much, again, that lesson. Colin setting up a lemonade stand. Give me a fucking break. Give me a break. Stop. That is so cute. That is so cute. And him being like, where are you comfortable, and, like, taking her there. Okay. But again, yeah, it is very rom-com. Like, I see what they're saying. There's a lot of those, like, awkward moments, her courting moments, and him, like, being there and noticing, and, like, kind of finding it sweet and kind of admiring it, but also being like, there's just a lot of really funny, entertaining moments. And then, of course, like, just hilarious. I just have to hee ha ha, like, when the tables turn and he's, like, longing after her and he's, like, losing his mind. I just have to laugh. It's what I like to see. It's all I've ever wanted to see, in fact. So, absolutely. And I love that she's pretty much oblivious to it. Like, she's like, yeah, he's handsome. He's like, literally, I'm gonna go, okay, cool. I do also wish that maybe there would have been more hints of him starting to have romantic feelings for her, or starting to find her attractive in episode 2 before the kiss. They had, like, things that you could interpret as hints or foreshadowing, and you're like, was he a little jealous there? Like what was going on there? But it wasn't overt enough for me to really make heads or tails of it, so I wish there was a little bit of that. Again, can't really tell until the end. I also think that the camera work and music could have been used a little bit more effectively to really hammer home how Colin's feeling. I just rewatched all of it yesterday, and second time around I was like, no, this is enough. This is enough yearning. This is enough of him being miserable. This is enough of him like longingly looking at her and being jealous and things like that. It felt sufficient to me the second time around, especially, but it is more subtle. You know what I mean? Like, you have to, I wish they would have done a little bit more, again, for general audiences who aren't really analyzing Colin and Penelope's relationship and aren't really realizing that there has been this buildup all along. To them, this seems like out of the blue and out of nowhere. They're like, oh, all of a sudden he likes her? Okay. So I wish they would have done a little bit more to like hint to the progression of this starting to happen. Because again, even like the scenes like where you could say that's starting to happen, like where she's complimenting his eyes, like again, I just think there's more that they could have done to be like, hey guys, hey, this is happening, guys, you know what I mean? Or the hand cut scene, like they could have done a lot more in that scene to make it clear that there's starting to be a connection, there's starting to be a reciprocation of feelings from him. And they didn't really take full advantage of that, I don't feel. I mean, generally speaking, again, after rewatching, I feel a lot better about the entire thing. I feel a lot better about the pacing. I do think the pacing is a little bit odd. I really think that Bridgerton could benefit from 10 episodes. They really could have benefited from 10 episodes in season 2, and here the same thing is happening. Because if we had had just one more episode, either of him realizing feelings or starting to catch feelings before or after the kiss, I think that would have felt a little bit more appropriate and a little bit more smooth. It felt a little jarring just a bit. And again, especially I can imagine how to just a general audience member, they're like, okay, all of a sudden. But, you know, they're obviously splitting up part 1 and part 2 into basically like them getting on the same page romantically, and then the second part is going to be combating the Lady Whistledown part of it all. I can't have an opinion on it yet because it hasn't finished, but it felt a little rushed. Like they're like, okay, we need to get this in order so that we can then start the Lady Whistledown part of it. Whereas I think this was a very important part to kind of really sit in and explore. And if they had just added 2 more episodes to this, they could have had a whole other episode of that happening. And on the other side, a whole other episode, if they needed to, of like resolving Whistledown, because my guess is that it's going to be a really hasty and quick resolve that doesn't really make a lot of sense, because they just are cramming it into 8 episodes when really it could benefit from 10 episodes. I really wish they would do 10 episodes. Plus, with all the ensemble and the storylines that they're trying to fit in, you could get more time with the main couple as well. I think that could fix a lot of these issues. But after watching it a second time, it did feel like a sufficient amount of time was kind of spent on that, and the change worked. And yeah, I just love to see it. Like, I just love to see it. Episode 2 and episode 4, You Will Always Be Famous. Episode 3 was good as well. Honestly, all of them were good. I mean, we love to see Anthony. You know what I mean? I would have liked to see them in the other ones. But again, I'm reserving judgment until the rest of the season comes out. I'm sure I'll have more to say once part 2 is out about how they handled that and how they could have done better, or if they did really well. Like, I don't know. Also, now I know why Luke was like, I don't think I can do Ep 2 with my mom. Yeah, period. It didn't even occur to me that it could be that, but absolutely, I understand. I get you, King. So now I feel like we need to talk about specific scenes, I guess. Okay, so their first kiss, I thought it was beautiful. I really did. I thought it, like, visually looked beautiful. You can tell that, like, they did put a lot of effort and thought into how to make it kind of dreamy and romantic and you know, that type of thing. It was, like, an aesthetically very pretty, beautiful little kiss.
Would you kiss me? I do not wish to die without ever having been kissed. Please. Colin.
My breathing is quickening. Oh my god. And then we got into it a little bit more, and it's like, absolutely, absolutely. Oh my. Okay. And then she leaves her, and his hand is in midair.
Thank you.
I fucking ascended. Oh my god!
Again, they could have held longer on his face. They could have had a little bit more of a different expression on his face. If they had held longer, they could have zoomed in a little bit more. They could have emphasized that that was the moment where, like, holy shit, his entire world just shifted. I don't think that, again, to general audiences, it's gonna be quite that clear. I love all his jealous moments. I mean, we love to see it. Her being completely oblivious. Oh my god, his moment with Violet was so fucking good. Violet is good this season. Thank the fucking Lord. Thank the Lord. It's all I've ever wanted. Like, Violet, moments in season 1 and 2, really, I love Violet, but, like, she can really annoy me. Or, more accurately, the way that they write her can really annoy me. And this season, she's just been, absolutely, she's doing everything right. I'm like, yes, Violet, thank you, thank the Lord. Like, her rooting for, her catching on to him and Penelope, her, like, gently pushing them in that direction, her being there to talk about it to him, offering her own advice, her comparison to her relationship with Edmund, like, what a period. Also, you're so not slick, King. I love you, but what makes you think that she is gonna think you're talking about Francesca? On what planet? Especially while you're literally looking at your bestie boo over there with another man. You know what I mean? Again, it's not rocket science. Like, it's really not that hard to figure out. But she's the MVP also for telling him that she was gonna get engaged. Like, absolutely. She wanted chaos, and I love her for that. She's like, no, you need to go break up that engagement. Period. And I'm not gonna tell you to, but I am gonna plant the seed. And I know you'll do the right thing. And I love to see it. There could have been more, but again, his despondence, like, him not fitting in with his friends, him not being able to perform in the brothel, which was crazy. Again, I had read that spoiler before the season had come out, and I thought, no way. Lo and behold. And then, like, getting super drunk and, like, you know, getting super irritable and lashing out. And it's very interesting. I love Mrs. Wilson, I believe her name is, and Violet's faces in that. The way that they approach him, you can tell that they're both, like, motherly figures to him. And they just, like, don't even, I could analyze that scene. I probably will analyze that scene. Again, character analysis for Colin, I think, is even more necessary now with this new season. For the dream sequence, I just like the fact that it exists. You know what I mean? I'm like, in the year of our Lord, in 2024, like, we are seeing Colin Bridgerton have sex dream of Penelope Millington. Like, that's just too good. It's too delicious. I'm eating too good.
Colin, you're crazy for this. You're so crazy for this. Oh. Okay. And I love to see it.
But he's so funny for making up that elaborate scenario. He really is so funny. Like, oh, writer Colin, also. They did writer Colin. Could not believe it. Oh, also, the whole thing, y'all, I had read fucking fanfic with this exact scenario. And when I read it, I was like, oh, period, what a good setup. Like, we love to see it. But it's very, I mean, fanfic. Like, it's like, absolutely, of course. Like, we see what's happening. Never did I once think it was even a remote possibility that they would do that shit in the actual show. Huh? I live. It's a little camp, honestly, which I don't mind. This is indulgence. This is bliss. This is a romance world. Like, we don't need to be, like, too serious, but they are so unserious for making it that, like, in the canon. That is so funny to me. I couldn't believe that. That's what I, like, actually, I might have had the biggest reaction to that, because I was just like, no fucking way are they doing the fanfic right now. No way are they putting this in here.
No, surely not. No fucking way.
I can now declare with great certainty that Paris is some of the most beautiful women in the world. How lucky I am to be surrounded by them.
These moments alone, as my fingers trace freckles from cheek to collarbone, or as I watch the way starlight dances across the skin, I marvel at how one can feel such intimacy, but also such great distance. Were Were you reading that?
No, I did not mean to.
You did not mean to pick up my journal and read it?
No, I did, but I should not have.
Well, no, you should not. Whatever you read was not meant for another's eye.
Ooh. Ooh.
Damn!
Colin, your hand.
It is nothing.
It's not nothing. Stay there. Indeed, thank you for the, lesson.
Oh my fucking god.
Would you not like to at least see?
What?
We may have had different taste in garments.
Okay.
They could have gone a little further as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know. But yeah, also crazy that we got to see them kiss in 3 out of the 4 episodes. I'm not complaining. I'm actually thanking you, in fact. But the favoritism was crazy. The favoritism was great. Oh my god. Where he comes up and interrupts with Debling, that was crazy.
That is interesting, isn't it? No, I meant your brother is walking right up to Penelope and Lord Debling.
Do you mind if I interrupt?
Oh,
It should only take a moment.
I just was like, you are mental. You need help. You're sick in the head. Now, the carriage scene. I mean, that is probably the scene that people are wanting to hear the most about. What is there to say? You know what I mean? Would I have liked maybe a little bit more with the confession? Sure. Am I mad at the confession? No. No. Am I mad at him chasing after her like a madman in front of the entire town? No. The amount of impropriety between these two is off the charts. And it's even worse now that there is a sexual tension. Like, they just do not give a single fuck. It doesn't even enter their heads to be thinking about this. Like Penelope said, she wasn't thinking about much of anything. But I'm just like, you guys, like, you're crazy for this. They were alone so much this season, which I'm thankful for. Thank you, Ray. Thank you for taking the bribe, queen. Get your money. And also, she's matchmaker, like she's number 1 pawn, Stan and shipper, as she should be. She's facilitating this to happen. And I thank her for that. I thank her for her service, in fact. But it was just crazy how much they were alone. The whole time they knew what they were doing was super scandalous. They did get, like, caught in it. Like, and then he's interrupting her dance with Debling and then running out her carriage. What? That is crazy. They're crazy for that. And I love that they're crazy like that. You know what I mean? Oh my god, also John and Francesca, and when he made the music.
Our preferred form of communication.
Did he change the music or something?
It is only that I wanted to get you this.
That is so fucking cute.
I am not a man of many words. The words I do have, I'm afraid they're not very good. But I do believe in the power of a gesture.
That shit was so fucking cute. And she was so happy. Like, it was so nice to see her happy, like, genuinely, like, she just lit up. She just, like, came to life. She was so, like, despondent. She always looked so sad, and then, like, all of a sudden, Interested to see where that one goes. But yeah, no, the carriage scene, like, he runs after her, absolutely. I did like that he was, like, asking her to be let in, rather than just letting himself in, or demanding that he be let in, although it was like, please! Please! Let me in! Again, find it very interesting that it seemingly, he still, somehow, does not understand that Penelope has been in love with him since the jump. Like, he thought that she was rejecting him in that moment. I'm like, on what planet, babe? On what planet is Penelope rejecting you? Because, like, the fact that he was, like, you know, scared in that moment, which I love to see, we love to see a little panic from him, but I was just like, you think she's gonna say no to you right now? Brother. My brother in Christ, like, come on. Now, as for the scene, like, I could analyze all their scenes. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do a rewatch of all of their scenes specifically and analyze. Maybe I'll do a, like, pollen analysis type thing with all these scenes. I don't know. The carriage scene, I've grown very fond of you. And I have to admit there are sexual feelings. I have to admit, sexual feelings have grown. They were always there. I don't, like, what am I supposed to say, period? Now, how much can I go into detail about my specific thoughts about specific moments in this scene? On the internet, Let's just say the gifts are good. The gifts are good, and I have noticed new details every time, and they were getting into it. And he went straight to his knees.
I have spent so long trying to feel less, trying to be the kind of man society expects me to be. And for a moment, I thought I had succeeded. But these past few weeks have been full of confounding feelings. Feelings like a total inability to stop thinking about you.
For all the people wanting Colin to be on his knees, girl, you got it. Without a second thought. Before he had even, like, actually made a full confession or anything, that man was on his knees, which I found hilarious and delightful. And the part where oh my. Oh. The part where she's touching his face. If I speak, you know what I mean? But Bryce King Colin is pretty much canon at this point. One. We have a few moments to back that up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I think I said, oh my. Involuntarily. I was not saying that before the camera. I literally was like, oh my. Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then her little smirk. They're crazy for that. They're crazy for that. But again, you can tell, like, Nicola and Luke wanted these to be good. Like, that they talked about these certain things. Because that's just such an interesting detail and tidbit that does feel kind of real and a little like, I'm like, shit, damn. Like, oh my god. Like, oh, okay, guys. So, yeah, we'd love to see it. Nicola Coughlan, you know, is there an Emmy Award for moans? Don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, I just... She ate with that. She absolutely outsold with those moans. I have to say, they were the best moans we've seen. I'm sorry. They were. I'm sorry. She killed that shit. And, of course, it's like, you know, it's necessary, especially, like, for both of them, but maybe even more so Penelope, especially at this point, since we haven't seen her really get into it, and we've seen her more in a childlike way, and she's been so young. It's important to see her in a womanly way, in exploring her sexuality, in getting into that part of herself. And it has to be convincing, and it has to be compelling, and it has to not feel weird. And honestly, it didn't feel weird at all to me. It felt very natural. It felt very real. I was like, of course Penelope would be like, you know, causing a racket like that. Like, she's been waiting her entire fucking life for this moment. You know what I mean? Like, come on. But yeah, it just felt very real. I was like, period performance, okay. Who knew Penelope? Well, she's a yapper, so she's a chatterbox. So again, I would like to see more. That's all I can say. But honestly, like, all jokes aside, and, you know, get me out of horny jail, but like, those moans, like, made it very, like, oh, we're like doing this, like, it's actually happening, and it's like they're getting into it, like, it's happening, they're doing it, you know what I mean? It felt very real, it was really good. Like, I don't know what to say, it was sexy, I don't, you know? There were some moments that I didn't love necessarily, or that I felt were, like, a little stunted or awkward, but, like, that's bound to happen in any of these, and I also would like to know, and so let me interview them, because I will ask. You know what, I'm unhinged enough to ask. I will ask the question that we all want to know. Was the use of 3 particular fingers to adjust her dress an intentional detail or an accident? If it was an accident, what a happy accident. Such a great detail. When I noticed that, I was like, okay. Did the intimacy coordinator have that attention to detail? Did they talk about what is that? But I love that. It's realistic. Anyway, no further comment. But I really like that detail. I really like the small details and the small moments in this that make it feel very like realistic. Oh my god, them laughing at the end, that was so fucking cute. I love that shit. Also, he's so crazy. He said what? He doesn't even know what planet he's on. They're literally in a carriage that's stopping, and she's like, oh, girl, we're stopped. And he's like, what? Like, out of a trance. That's so funny to me.
Colin, we're at your house.
Oh, God.
He said what?
Could the carriage driver not keep on driving?
That is so cute. I mean, that scene, I could go into, anyway, I could write a dissertation on that scene. I could write a dissertation on any scene in any of these. And I have a lot more to say. It's not even funny. Like, I have so much more to say. But again, I just wanted to hop on here and give first thoughts because I know that there's been some negative things. Like, I think it was good. I don't know what to say, guys. Like, I think it was good. And maybe it's because I went in with lower expectations, especially from season 2. Maybe it's because they're not my number one couple that I'm not as heartbroken by some of the changes that they made. Whereas, like, with Anthony, I was, really upset about some of the changes that they made. I don't know if that's subjective to who your favorite couple is and what you want to see. But I just thought it was good. I thought it worked. I thought it made sense. There were some pacing issues, some things that I didn't like, some lines that I didn't like. They could have done more in a lot of instances. Like, I feel like they could have explained certain things better and made it more clear. But there were so many interactions that I loved. All the subplots were good. I mean, the arc for Colin and Penelope is pretty good. I'm interested to see where it goes. Again, it's hard to really, like, have a full comment on it yet. Oh, and they did, the way that they stuck to the book is crazy. Because, again, after If I Can Who Love Me and then season 2, I just was so sure that they just weren't going to do anything from the book. So every time they do, I'm, like, shocked. And the fact that they did the ending of the book, they obviously changed. They took out the Lady Whistledown part of the carriage scene. But, the proposal at the end is the cliffhanger, girl. But I loved it. And it was pretty much word for word. There were a lot of things that were word for word from the book. And they're probably better off that way. If only for season 2. Anyway, that's another video. But yeah, love all the Bridgerton scenes. Love the expansion on Francesca. Love her love story that's brewing with that. Love everything going on with Eloise and Cressida and Penelope and Colin. I'm so excited to see where it goes. Like, I need more. Give it to me. Show it to me, please. Show me to me, please. Give it to me, please. Show me to me, please. Certainly, there were things that could have been done better. Certainly, there were things that I didn't like. And I'll get into that in my full review. But, like, generally speaking, I thought everything was pretty good. It was pretty spot on. And I just have to wait to comment on a lot of it until the second part is out. Again, this is not my full review by any means whatsoever, so look out for a full in-depth review. I'm probably going to review every episode pretty much because there's like so many scenes and moments that I didn't talk about here. But I'm living. That's all I can say. I'm living. Sorry. Sorry to this man. Sorry to these people who aren't or who want to hate it or like whatever. Personally, I just think it's being well done. It's being well executed thus far. I can't say anything for the second half of the season, but I'm on board with the directions that they're going for the season thus far. And I also think everybody did a good job acting it. Like, I think everybody was good and sufficient and served the purpose. Again, a lot of Luke's acting is like a little bit more subtle, so I wish they would have utilized the camera work to make it more obvious kind of how he was feeling, because it is so hard with romance novels because in the books you read all their inner thoughts 24/7, and it's harder to convey what people are thinking and feeling and the, shifts that they're going through within themselves in a TV show. So you have to make use of other mediums to kind of emphasize that point. But yeah, Colin screaming, crying, throwing up, so am I. Trust and believe I will have approximately 1 million more videos on season 3. Each episode, each character, Colin reveal, it's not even funny. It's really not even funny, but people were asking, so I just wanted to get this out, get first thoughts out, kind of informal, chit-chat, kiki, talk, and let you know where I'm personally at with this. And I want to hear what y'all think. Let me know what you think. If you disliked it, let me know why. I would like to hear like other people's opinions and get into it and see if I agree or disagree. And then I could do another video like, you know, talking about those opinions or like debating, like whatever it is. If you agree with me, disagree with me, let me know. What are your thoughts down below? What'd you like? What'd you not like? I would love to hear everyone's perspective for sure. And I will see you soon for yet another Bridgerton video.